Hi Nikki, hope you're doing well. Let's take a look at your week 2 assignment 2. In this particular assignment, we're looking at shooting both outdoors and indoors. The outdoor part was using the sun and then a reflector, or just natural light and reflector. And then the indoor part was using your studio lamp and then the reflector. So you kind of get a chance to try out your reflector using both outdoor natural light and indoor artificial light. And then the other part of the assignment was trying to show character through the way you lit the subject, or also by the way that you might have chosen the wardrobe and the place where they did the photograph. I was curious about this particular one, if the place had any kind of relationship to the person. It seems like she's more or less standing out in a park, and the green in some places is pretty nice, others it can kind of be distracting. So for example, I'll point out some that are more distracting. So there's, I'm not sure what this is here, like there's a pathway. When there's more things going on behind her, then that's more distracting. When you come in tighter, and for example, here, and you make the background go out of focus, so we're shooting at f4, so the background's going out of focus. And if we look at these other ones, for example, right here, we have the background a little softer. So a couple things I want to mention to you just about reading your metadata and your framing. I think you did the assignment properly, so you used the reflector well. So there's a couple technical things that you can improve on, though, I want to go over. First of all, when I see you holding the exposure meter here, I see that you're kind of holding it with the meter in the shade. So since you're going to fill in with the reflector, what you'd want to do would be to meter the sunlit part rather than where her face is. So that would be one thing. The reflector, remember, is going to fill in on her face. Now, of course, you can, a way to do this, of course, would be to hold the reflector up, have an assistant, and meter the light once the reflector's on her face. That would work also. Her face is actually exposed correctly in all these images. It may be even a little bit overexposed, and certainly the sky is overexposed. So that's one of the parts, but you control that by how you position your subject. When the sky is so much brighter than your subject, then you can do something like this where you included shady trees in the background, and that makes then the sky not blow out. So you see the difference between this one and that one? These two side by side, you can see how this image looks better. Then the other thing I wanted to mention too was the focal length. So using 23 millimeter. 23 millimeter is really a wide angle setting, so you would use to shoot groups of people. And for shooting an individual, you would shoot more from 50 to 80 millimeter. That would be a more appropriate focal length to use for a portrait. It's going to make your background a little softer, and it's going to make her features more flat, and it'll flatten them a little bit. Some of the best ones that I think this one came out pretty good. I really like her expression, the way her hair is hanging. Here you're also showing her wardrobe nicely. The background's not distracted. Also, a lot of good things about this. It does have her head pretty much in the center. You do have to be careful about that. Try to always have the head be kind of off center. You do that in most of your images, so you've done quite well with that regard. One thing when you have someone behind, the sun behind, you got to watch for the sun coming over their head and catching their nose, that kind of thing. So lighting's complicated, and you'll see as you go along, you'll get really good actually at noticing those details. So here indoors, there's two key things that you can do to make this better. I already mentioned your focal length, but another thing would be to move your model 4 to 6 feet out away from the background so that her shadow doesn't fall on the background. And then the other thing is to raise your light. Your light is too low. See how her shadow is actually going from your light is down here and you're shooting up, creating her shadow here. A more flattering effect will be to shoot with your light down, angling down, and then you won't have that shadow in the background. And then of course pulling her out far away from the background will also help the shadow fall down behind her. Obviously when you're shooting from below and up, the shadow is going to go project onto the background even when it's far away. So you do need to make sure you raise your angle. So those are some key things to learn from this particular assignment. We'll work on, posing and wardrobe, all things we'll work on as we go. We'll not pay too much attention to that this time. But I can see I like to see the way you experiment a lot. One more thing that would really be helpful, to see your lighting setup right here, I really need to see that with the model standing there. I need to see how high your light was in relation to her. If you just show me kind of the after effect, kind of what was left when you're all done, I don't really get an idea of that. So as you move the light around your model, just take a step back, take a wide shot, and just explain that you're documenting your lighting setup to your model. That way they understand what you're doing when you step back to take the image. Okay? Alright, so you've done the assignment properly, but a couple things could be improved, and you'll improve those as you go along. Those are all little details that you'll soon just take care of those right away without any issues. Good shutter speed and aperture and so on as far as that goes. All these are sharp, well focused, and look at it in that regard.